Okay, let's take a look at problem 2, multiplying by a negative number. It says, what are the solutions of negative 3/4 W is greater than or equal to 3? Graph and check solutions. Okay, so I have negative 3/4W is greater than or equal to 3. And just like we did before, we want to do the opposite. So the opposite would be multiplying by the inverse. So the inverse of 3/4, excuse me, not the inverse, the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 3/4 is 4/3. And so I would do a negative so that it would change to positive. And so 4/3 times 3/4 would change to positive W. Whenever I multiply my inequality by a negative, my inequality flips. So notice here it is greater than or equal to. Now it's less than or equal to. So I get, of course, these cancel out. W is less than or equal to. And when I multiply negative 4/3 times 3, 3's cancel out, and I'm just left with negative 4. And so then I go to negative 4 on my number line. It's a closed circle because I have equal to. And then it's less than, so everything going in this direction. So then to check the endpoint of W is less than or equal to negative 4, make sure the negative 4 is the solution of the equation. Negative 3/4 W equals 3. So instead of the less than or equal to, I'm going to change this to an equal sign. And so I get negative 3/4 W equals to 3. And instead of W, I'm going to place a negative 4 because that's what's my endpoint here at negative 4. And so I plug that in. And I get, when I plug it in, I get 3 is equal to 3. Okay? And so now I want to check a point that I know is also on my number line, which is negative 5. I could check negative 6, negative 7, negative 21. All those numbers would also be on my within my solution, but let's just do negative 5. And when I do that, I get a negative times a negative makes a positive, and I get 3 3/4, which is really going to give me 15/4. Reduce that to 3 3/4. And 3 3/4 is greater than or equal to 3, so it checks out. Okay. So let's do it on our own now. We have negative 9. Sorry, not negative 9. Negative n over 3 is less than negative 1. Okay, so again, I want to multiply by negative 3, and I want to multiply by negative 3 because I don't want to have my negative n there. I want a positive n. And so here my 3's cross out, so it's my negative, and I'm left with n. Whenever I multiply by a negative, my inequality flips, and negative 1 times negative 3 is positive 3. And so then I go to my number line. Just going to put a few points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's open dot because it's not an equal sign. Greater than is going to be everything to the right. Okay, so now I want to check it. So first I will check negative n over 3 is less than negative 1. And the first thing I'm going to plug in is that endpoint of 3. And so I will use equal sign instead. So I have negative 3 over 3 is equal to negative 1. Let's see if that works out. Negative 3 over 3 gives me negative 1, and that does in fact equal negative 1. So that checks out. Now let's check another point to see if it works out. Oops. Okay, let's try 5. No, let's try 6. I like 6 better. So we'll do negative, we're not putting negative 6, we're putting 6 in, but it's a negative in front of the n. So that's why I put it in parentheses to remind us of that. So negative times 6, and see if that's less than negative 1. Okay, so negative 6 over 3 is negative 2, and negative 2 is less than negative 1, so it also checks out. So that's a true statement. So this is, in fact, our solution, and I hope that this helps.